The return from the void. The skies above New Terra Colony blazed with the fiery remains of human ships. The Vexari Empire had struck again, their plasma weapons cutting through Earth's best defenses like they were made of paper. Admiral Harrison watched from the command center of Orbital Defense Station Gamma, his weathered face illuminated by the emergency lights as another cruiser exploded in the distance. "Sir, casualty reports coming in from sectors 3 through 7. Lieutenant Chen reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We've lost the Intrepid, the Valiant, and the Dauntless. The Meridian is heavily damaged, but withdrawing to safe distance." Harrison's fist tightened. 4 years of war with the Vexari had pushed humanity to the brink. What had started as a border dispute over mining rights in the Tau Ceti system had escalated into a full-scale interstellar conflict. The aliens possessed technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, and humanity's only advantage, ingenuity and sheer determination, was wearing thin. "Order all remaining ships to fall back to the defensive line at Jupiter," Harrison commanded. "We can't afford to lose anyone else today." As the surviving vessels limped away from the battlefield, Harrison couldn't help but think of the Defiance, Earth's most advanced warship, lost 3 years ago in the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The ship and its crew of 500 had vanished into a quantum anomaly while covering the retreat of a civilian transport fleet. Their sacrifice had saved thousands, but the loss of the Defiance had been a crushing blow to humanity's defenses and morale. Lieutenant Chen's console suddenly lit up with an alert. "Sir, we're picking up a signal. It's coming through on an old Earth frequency. A distress call." "Put it through," Harrison ordered, expecting yet another colonial outpost about to fall. Static filled the command center, then broken words came through. "Defiance. Returning. Assistance. Not what we were. Evolved. Coming home." The room fell silent. Officers exchanged shocked glances. "That's impossible," Harrison whispered. "The Defiance was destroyed years ago." "Sir," Chen said, her voice trembling slightly, "the signal is authenticated. It's the Defiance's transponder code, but the energy signature is unlike anything in our database." Harrison stood straighter. "Locate the source." "Already done, sir. It's coming from the outer rim of the solar system, approaching from the direction of the Kuiper Belt. And it's moving fast, faster than any of our ships. At current velocity, it will reach Earth in 3 days." The Admiral's mind raced. If the Defiance had somehow survived, it could turn the tide of the war. But if this was a Vexari trap using a captured transponder code, they could be facing an even greater threat than before. "Assemble a reconnaissance team," he ordered. "I want our fastest scout ship ready to launch in 6 hours. We need to verify this signal before it reaches Earth." Commander Ilara Kane stood in the hangar bay of the scout ship Hermes, watching as her team completed the final preparations for launch. At 35, Kane was among the most decorated officers in the United Service Fleet, with a reputation for bringing her people home alive, even from the most dangerous missions. "Final systems check complete, Commander," reported Lieutenant Marcus Way, her second in command. "We're cleared for departure." Kane nodded. "Good. Let's move out before Admiral Harrison changes his mind about sending us." The small team boarded the Hermes, a sleek vessel designed for speed and stealth rather than combat. As the ship detached from the station and accelerated toward the outer solar system, Kane reviewed what little information they had about the mysterious signal. "The message keeps repeating," Way explained, bringing up the audio analysis on the main screen. "But there are subtle variations each time, like it's being spoken by a human, but processed through something else." "What do you make of the part about being evolved?" Kane asked. Way shook his head. "No idea. But the Defiance was testing experimental quantum drive technology when it disappeared. The scientific theory was that the ship was torn apart by spatial distortion, but some of the quantum physicists had other theories, such as that the ship might have been displaced, sent somewhere else, another dimension, another time. Pure speculation, of course." Kane had served briefly aboard the Defiance before its final mission. She remembered its captain, Alejandro Reyes, a brilliant tactician who had become something of a legend since his disappearance. She had declined a permanent posting on the ship to lead a rescue operation for a mining colony, a decision that had ultimately saved her life. After 18 hours of high-speed travel, the Hermes approached the coordinates where the signal originated. The crew grew tense as the sensors began picking up an enormous energy signature. "That can't be right," muttered Ensign Park at the sensor station. "According to these readings, whatever's out there is putting out enough energy to power the entire Earth for a year. Visual range in 30 seconds, Way announced. Kane leaned forward in her chair. "Shields at maximum. Be ready to jump to FTL if this goes south." The view screen flickered as the Hermes's cameras adjusted to the darkness of deep space, then focused on a distant object. At first glance, it resembled a ship, but unlike any vessel Kane had ever seen. The basic structure was recognizable as the Defiance, a USF Excalibur-class warship with its distinctive twin-hull configuration. But the similarity ended there. The formerly metallic gray hull now rippled with what looked like liquid darkness, shot through with veins of blue-white energy that pulsed in rhythmic patterns. The ship had grown. Its original 1,200-meter length now extended to nearly twice that size, with new structures that seemed to have organically sprouted from the original framework. "My God," Y whispered. "What happened to it?" Kane stared at the transformed vessel. "Hail them." After several attempts, the communications officer reported success. "We're getting a response, Commander. Video and audio." The main screen shifted to show what should have been the Defiance's bridge. Instead, they saw a cavernous space filled with technology that was unmistakably not of human origin. Streams of data flowed through the air in holographic rivulets. At the center stood a figure that, after a moment of disorientation, Kane recognized. Captain Reyes. The man who turned to face the camera was both familiar and profoundly changed. His eyes glowed with the same blue-white energy that coursed through the ship, and faint lines of it traced patterns beneath his skin. "Commander Kane," he replied, his voice overlaid with harmonics that made it sound as if multiple people were speaking at once. "We didn't expect they would send you." "Captain," Kane said carefully, "we thought you were dead. The Defiance was reported destroyed 3 years ago." Reyes smiled, an expression that didn't quite fit his transformed face. "The Defiance was destroyed, Commander. What returned is something more. We encountered something in the quantum void, a consciousness, a technology we can barely comprehend. It rebuilt us, merged with us. Us, the crew, survived. In a manner of speaking. We are integrated now, ship and crew, human and technology. We have evolved beyond our original design." Reyes gestured around him. "We have come back because Earth needs us. The Vexari are preparing a final assault that will overwhelm your defenses." Kane felt a chill run down her spine. "How do you know about the Vexari?" "The war started after you disappeared." "We see much from the void between spaces," Reyes answered cryptically. "Time flows differently there. We have witnessed possible futures. Most end with humanity's extinction. We have returned to prevent that." Kane exchanged glances with Wei, whose face reflected her own mixture of hope and suspicion. This could be humanity's salvation, or an even greater threat than the Vexari. "Captain Reyes, I've been instructed to escort you back to Earth if we confirm your identity," Kane said. "Admiral Harrison is waiting to debrief you." "Of course," Reyes nodded. "But Commander, you should know, we are not exactly what the Admiral is expecting. It would be better if you saw for yourself what we have become before we approach Earth." Kane hesitated only briefly. "Request permission to come aboard." "Granted," Reyes replied. "Prepare for transport." Before Kane could ask what he meant, a column of blue-white energy surrounded her. She felt her body dissolve into particles of light, and in the next instant, she was standing on the bridge of the Defiance, or whatever it had become. The air around her seemed alive, tingling against her skin. Data streams flowed through the environment, and when she reached out to touch one, information flooded her mind. Star charts, battle plans, the complete history of the Vexari Empire. "Welcome aboard, Commander," Rai said, standing before her. Up close, the changes to him were even more pronounced. His uniform had been replaced by a material that seemed to shift between solid and energy. "What you're experiencing is just a fraction of what we've gained. The entity that reconstructed us exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It gave us its technology freely when it understood our purpose." "Which is?" Kane asked, fighting to maintain her composure as the room seemed to breathe around her. "To survive. To ensure humanity's continuation." Rise gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing Earth under attack by a massive Vexari fleet, far larger than anything they had faced before. "This will happen in 1 month. The Vexari have been holding back, testing your defenses while they assembled their real invasion force. And you can stop this. With your help, yes." Rise approached her, his glowing eyes intense. "But the United Service Fleet needs to understand. We're not just a weapon to be deployed. We're something new, a bridge between human ingenuity and technology beyond your comprehension." Kane studied him carefully. "You say we and you're as if you're no longer human. Parts of us still are," he acknowledged. "But we've become something more, something that can stand against the Vexari as equals. The question is, Commander Kane, are you ready to help us convince Earth to accept what we've become?" The fate of humanity might well rest on how she answered. Kane straightened her shoulders and met Reyes's transformed gaze. "Show me everything," she said, "and then we'll go home." As the transformed Defiance continued its journey toward Earth, Kane stood at a viewport, watching the stars streak by at impossible speeds. Behind her, the ship hummed with power beyond human understanding, carrying within it humanity's last, best hope for survival against an enemy that had pushed them to the edge of extinction. The void had claimed the Defiance and its crew. Now, forged in darkness, they had returned, not as they were, but as something Earth desperately needed them to be. Forged in darkness. The journey back to Earth was faster than anything Kane had experienced before. The transformed Defiance didn't move through space so much as bend it, creating shortcuts through reality that defied the laws of physics as humanity understood them. During the trip, Reyes and the other transformed crew members showed Kane the true extent of their metamorphosis. The ship's original complement of 500 had been reduced to 320, but those who remained had been fundamentally changed by their experience in what they called the void. "We entered the quantum anomaly expecting death," explained Dr. Samira Aisha, formerly the ship's chief science officer, her skin now laced with the same glowing circuitry as Reyes. "Instead, we found ourselves in a place between realities, a dimensional pocket where the laws of our universe don't apply." Kane walked beside her through corridors that seemed to reconfigure themselves as needed. Walls became transparent to display the surrounding space, then solidified again. Materials flowed like liquid one moment, then crystallized into complex structures the next. "And that's where you encountered this entity?" Kane asked. "Entity isn't quite right," Aisha replied. "It was more like a technology ecosystem that achieved sentience eons ago. It had been observing our universe from its dimensional pocket, curious about biological intelligence. When we accidentally breached its domain, it was excited. It had never encountered humans before. So it decided to experiment on you." Kane couldn't keep the edge from her voice. "No," Aisha shook her head, her eyes pulsing with energy. "It offered to save us. The anomaly had irreparably damaged the Defiance and our bodies were failing. It proposed a symbiosis. Its technology merged with our biology and our ship. The alternative was death." Kane stopped walking to face Aisha directly. "And you all agreed to this?" "Not all," Rice said, appearing suddenly beside them. "We lost 180 crew members who either died in the initial event or chose not to accept the transformation. We honored their choice." Kane processed this information as they entered what had once been the ship's engineering section. Now it housed a pulsating crystalline structure that bathed the room in blue-white light. "This is the core," Rise explained. "It's where the ship's consciousness resides, a blend of the original AI systems and the dimensional technology." "The ship is alive?" Kane asked, staring at the massive crystal. "In a manner of speaking." Rise placed his hand on the structure, and it brightened in response. "It's more accurate to say the line between ship and crew has blurred. We're all connected through it. We can communicate instantaneously, share experiences, even temporarily merge consciousness when necessary." Kane suppressed a shudder. "And what exactly do you expect will happen when we reach Earth? You must know how this will look to the military command." "That's why you're here," Rise said simply. "You're our bridge, Commander. Someone who knew us before, who can vouch that we're still fundamentally human despite our changes. Someone they trust." Part 2. Forged in Darkness. The journey back to Earth was faster than anything Kane had experienced before. The transformed Defiance didn't move through space so much as bend it, creating shortcuts through reality that defied the laws of physics as humanity understood them. During the trip, Rice and the other transformed crew members showed Kane the true extent of their metamorphosis. The ship's original complement of 500 had been reduced to 320, but those who remained had been fundamentally changed by their experience in what they called the void. "We entered the quantum anomaly expecting death," explained Dr. Samira Aisha, formerly the ship's chief science officer, her skin now laced with the same glowing circuitry as Ray's. "Instead, we found ourselves in a place between realities, a dimensional pocket where the laws of our universe don't apply." Kane walked beside her through corridors that seemed to reconfigure themselves as needed. Walls became transparent to display the surrounding space, then solidified again. Materials flowed like liquid one moment, then crystallized into complex structures the next. "And that's where you encountered this entity?" Kane asked. "Entity isn't quite right," Aisha replied. "It was more like a technology ecosystem that achieved sentience eons ago. It had been observing our universe from its dimensional pocket, curious about biological intelligence. When we accidentally breached its domain, it was excited. It had never encountered humans before. So it decided to experiment on you." Kane couldn't keep the edge from her voice. "No." Aisha shook her head, her eyes pulsing with energy. "It offered to save us. The anomaly had irreparably damaged the Defiance and our bodies were failing. It proposed a symbiosis. Its technology merged with our biology and our ship. The alternative was death." Kane stopped walking to face Aisha directly. "And you all agreed to this?" "Not all," Rice said, appearing suddenly beside them. "We lost 180 crew members who either died in the initial event or chose not to accept the transformation. We honored their choice." Kane processed this information as they entered what had once been the ship's engineering section. Now it housed a pulsating crystalline structure that bathed the room in blue-white light. "This is the core," Rise explained. "It's where the ship's consciousness resides, a blend of the original AI systems and the dimensional technology." "The ship is alive?" Kane asked, staring at the massive crystal. "In a manner of speaking." Rise placed his hand on the structure, and it brightened in response. "It's more accurate to say the line between ship and crew has blurred. We're all connected through it. We can communicate instantaneously, share experiences, even temporarily merge consciousness when necessary." Kane suppressed a shudder. "And what exactly do you expect will happen when we reach Earth? You must know how this will look to the military command." "That's why you're here," Rise said simply. "You're our bridge, Commander. Someone who knew us before, who can vouch that we're still fundamentally human despite our changes. Someone they trust." Kane wasn't sure if she trusted them herself yet, but as she studied the transformed ship and crew over the following hours, she couldn't deny the potential they represented. The Defiance had weaponry capable of targeting multiple enemies simultaneously with pinpoint accuracy. Its new hull could absorb and redirect energy attacks. Most impressively, it could predict enemy movements seconds before they occurred. A tactical advantage that could change everything against the Vexari. "How do you do that?" she asked as she watched a simulation where the Defiance effortlessly neutralized a Vexari battle group 3 times its size. "The void exists outside normal temporal flow," explained Lieutenant Commander Takeshi Sato, the tactical officer whose skin now had a metallic sheen. "We retain a connection to it that allows us to perceive multiple probability streams, future events that might occur based on current trajectories." "You can see the future." "Not exactly. We see possibilities, weighted by likelihood. The closer in time, the more accurate the prediction." As they approached Earth orbit, the reaction from the defense fleet was immediate and hostile. Dozens of warships moved to intercept, weapons charged, and targeting systems locked on the massive, transformed vessel. "Unidentified ship, this is Admiral Harrison of the Earth Defense Fleet," came the transmission. "Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire." Kane stood on the bridge beside Rise, looking at the fleet arrayed against them. "Let me talk to him," she said. Rise nodded, and the communication system connected her. "In some ways, sir, we've returned different, but with the same mission, to protect Earth and her colonies." After a tense negotiation, Harrison agreed to allow the Defiance to dock at the lunar military base, far enough from Earth to minimize any potential threat. Kane would return to Earth ahead of them to brief the Admiralty in person. As she prepared to depart in a shuttle, Rise gave her a small crystalline device. "What's this?" she asked, turning it over in her hand. "A data core containing everything we know about the Vexari, their fleet movements, technologies, weaknesses. It also explains what happened to us in the void." He placed his hand over hers, the energy lines in his skin pulsing. "Some will fear what we've become, Ilara. They'll want to study us, perhaps even destroy us to obtain our technology. We're trusting you to make them understand. We're still human in the ways that matter." Kane nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. "I'll do my best." The meeting at United Service Fleet Headquarters in Geneva was even more contentious than Kane had anticipated. Military leaders argued with scientists who wanted to study the transformed crew, while politicians worried about the diplomatic implications of deploying such a radically advanced weapon. "How can we trust them?" demanded General Santos, pounding his fist on the table. "For all we know, this void entity reprogrammed them to infiltrate Earth's defenses," Dr. Eleanor Feng from Advanced Weapons Research countered. "The technology they've brought back could advance our scientific understanding by centuries. We need to learn from them, not treat them as a threat." Kane stood before the assembled leaders, having presented her report and the data from Reyes. "With respect, what we need to focus on is the imminent Vexari attack. According to the Defiance's intelligence, we have less than 3 weeks before their main fleet arrives, a force 5 times larger than anything we've encountered." Admiral Harrison, who had been quiet until then, finally spoke. "Commander Kane, in your professional opinion, are Captain Reyes and his crew still loyal to Earth?" Kane didn't hesitate. "Yes, sir. They've changed, but their core mission remains the same, to protect humanity. And right now, they're the best chance we have." The debate continued for hours, but ultimately pragmatism won out. Earth was losing the war, and the transformed Defiance represented their only real hope of survival. The ship and its crew were granted provisional status within the fleet, with Kane assigned as liaison officer. Over the following weeks, the Defiance shared what it could of its technology. Much of it was too advanced to be reverse-engineered quickly, but the tactical data about Vexari weaknesses proved invaluable. Earth's engineers worked around the clock to modify existing weapons based on the Defiance's specifications. Kane split her time between the Defiance and fleet headquarters, increasingly finding herself drawn to the transformed crew. Despite their otherworldly appearance and abilities, they retained their human personalities and memories. They laughed, argued, and reminisced about Earth, even as they could now communicate telepathically and merge with their ship's systems at will. One evening, as Earth's defense fleet conducted final drills for the coming battle, Kane found Reyes in the Defiance's observation deck, looking down at the blue planet below. Having second thoughts, she asked, joining him at the viewport. "Not about returning," he said softly. "But sometimes I wonder if we made the right choice in accepting the transformation. We're not fully human anymore, Ilara. There are times when I can feel the void calling to us, urging us to evolve further." "You resisted it," she pointed out. "You chose to come back." "Yes." He turned to her, his luminous eyes somber. "Because no matter how far we've evolved, we haven't forgotten what it means to be human, to fight for those we care about, to come home." The ship's internal systems suddenly pulsed with alert signals. "The long-range sensors have detected something," Reyes said, his expression shifting to concern. "The Vexeri fleet. It's arriving ahead of schedule." The battle began at dawn, Earth time. The Vexeri fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near Neptune's orbit. Over 200 warships of various sizes, led by a massive dreadnought twice the size of anything they'd deployed before. Earth's defenses were as ready as they could be. 97 warships formed the primary battle line, supported by orbital platforms and ground-based weapon systems. At the center of the formation waited the Defiance, now flanked by the Earth's flagship, the Dauntless, commanded by Admiral Harrison himself. "All ships, battle positions." Harrison's voice rang out across the fleet communications. "Remember your training and watch each other's backs. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to exist among the stars." The Vexeri struck first, their plasma weapons lancing out across space to impact Earth's front line. Several human ships exploded immediately, their shields overwhelmed by the concentrated fire. The Defiance moved forward, its strange hull absorbing enemy fire that would have destroyed any conventional vessel. It returned fire with weapons that seemed to bypass Vexeri shields entirely, tearing through their smaller ships. "They're targeting the Defiance," Kane reported from her station on the bridge, monitoring fleet communications. "They recognize it as the primary threat." Reyes nodded, his form now partially merged with his command chair, streams of energy connecting him directly to the ship's systems. "As expected, execute maneuver Theta 9. The Defiance suddenly accelerated to impossible speed, appearing to blink out of existence before reappearing behind the Vexeri formation. It unleashed a barrage that disabled a dozen enemy vessels in seconds. The human fleet pressed the advantage, focusing fire on the gaps the Defiance had created. For the first time in the war, the Vexeri were on the defensive. But the alien commander was cunning. The massive dreadnought suddenly changed course, bypassing the main battle to head directly for Earth, surrounded by a protective screen of destroyers. "They're making a run for the planet," Kane warned. "If that dreadnought gets through, it could devastate the surface with orbital bombardment." "Intercept course," Reyes ordered, his voice resonating with multiple harmonics as he integrated more deeply with the ship. Maximum tactical integration. The bridge around them seemed to dissolve as the Defiance's interior reconfigured itself. The crew, or what they had become, merged their consciousnesses together, functioning as a single entity. Kane felt a strange sensation as Reyes extended a hand toward her. "Join us," he said. "We need your human perspective." Hesitating only briefly, Kane took his hand. Instantly, her mind expanded as she was linked to the collective consciousness of the ship and crew. She could feel the Defiance around her like an extension of her own body, sensed the tactical patterns of the battle as clearly as if they were physical objects she could touch. Together, they pursued the Vexeri dreadnought, calculating and executing complex maneuvers that no human crew could have managed. The Defiance danced through enemy fire, systematically eliminating the escort ships. Finally, only the dreadnought remained, its massive weapons now targeting the Defiance with everything it had. The transformed ship shuddered under the assault, its energy reserves depleting rapidly. "We can't sustain this level of attack much longer," came the collective thought of the crew. Through their shared consciousness, Kane suddenly recognized a pattern in the enemy's attack, a fluctuation in their shield matrix that occurred milliseconds before their main weapon fired. There, she directed their attention. That's the weakness. The Defiance adjusted its approach, timing its attack perfectly to exploit the momentary vulnerability. A concentrated beam of blue-white energy lanced from the ship, piercing the dreadnought's shields and striking its power core. The alien vessel exploded in a blinding flash, the shockwave rippling across space. Without their flagship, the remaining Vexeri ships began to retreat, jumping to faster-than-light speeds and vanishing into the darkness. As the human fleet erupted in celebrations, Kane found herself gently disconnected from the ship's consciousness, returning to her individual self. She stumbled slightly, feeling suddenly confined within the limitations of her human body. Rice steadied her, his form solidifying back into a more human appearance. "Thank you," he said simply. "Your perspective was the key." Kane looked around at the transformed crew, seeing them with new understanding after briefly sharing their collective mind. "What happens now?" she asked. Rice gazed out at the stars, where the last Vexeri ships were disappearing from sensors. "Now we rebuild. The Vexeri will return eventually. This was just their first major offensive, but we've shown them humanity isn't the easy target they thought we were." "And the Defiance? Will you stay?" "Some of us will," he said. "Others feel called to explore the void further, to learn more about the entity that transformed us and what other knowledge might be waiting between dimensions." Kane nodded, understanding the pull they felt towards something greater than themselves. "You've changed everything, you know. Humanity will never be the same after seeing what's possible. Change is inevitable." Rice smiled, the energy patterns beneath his skin pulsing gently. "But there are constants too. Courage, sacrifice, the drive to protect what matters. Those things remain human, no matter how far we evolve." As Earth celebrated its first major victory in the war, the Defiance hovered in orbit, its transformed hull reflecting the light of the rising sun. Once thought destroyed, it had returned from the darkness between worlds, bringing with it not just advanced technology, but a new understanding of humanity's potential. The ship that had been forged in darkness now stood as a beacon of light, a bridge between what humanity was and what it might one day become. And as Kane watched the sunrise from the observation deck, she couldn't help but wonder what other miracles and mysteries waited in the vast, unexplored corners of the universe.